everybody, it is Syra and welcome back to my channel, Syra Gets Fit. My journey to get physically, mentally, and emotionally well, fit, healthy, all of those lovely words. Right now, my subject is going to be being diagnosed with ADHD at age 45. Last year, during all this fun world bug, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people spent the time being introspective and looking into themselves and trying to figure out themselves in a better way, or just trying to figure out who they are in general. I, of course, was part of that group of people that did that. Last year I started asking myself questions. Why do I struggle so much? I'm smart. I'm passionate. I have a lot of goals, but I never seem to have follow through. I get distracted easily. And I'm like, what is causing this? Is it an inherent part of my personality, or is it something else? So, of course, as a lot of people do, I turned to the internet. I started typing in different aspects or symptoms or traits that I found that I commonly had, and it led me to ADHD. So I started looking at ADHD, and I'm like, well, not 100%. Then I thought, okay, well, men's brains and women's brains are different. We can be looking at the same thing and different parts of our brain will light up. So I thought, okay, let me focus on traits in females for ADHD. And I'm like, the pieces of the puzzle just started coming together. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. If you see me look down, I'm looking at notes, which is leaning against my table, which is kind of weak. But I was like, as the puzzle pieces started falling into place, I was, okay, I need to be diagnosed, or I need to talk to my psychologist about this and ask him if he can do that. So during one of our conversations, I said, okay, these are some of my day-to-day issues, and I think that I may have attention deficit hyperdisorder. And he said, he asked me a couple questions. He's like, yes, that might be something that is a part of who you are. And he set up the tests for me. And oh my gosh, paying attention to those tests were so hard. Oh, there was one of them that I almost fell asleep. It was such a long test. But with all, I have something around here, the aha moment. As I was looking through all of these traits, there was definitely an aha moment when, all those pieces were falling into place, and I was starting to get a better sense of who I am and why I have the issues that I do. Now, all of this has led to a lot of emotional turmoil. Some of it is good emotionally, some of it is bad emotionally. And some of it leads to questions in my head, which are maybe not necessarily based in logic, but they're still the questions in my head. Like, why? This is going to be hard. And again, this is not a question based in logic. This is just a question that's in my head. Like, why did I not mean enough to someone when I was younger to help me figure this out? Why has all of my struggle been, Syra, you're just lazy. Syra, you're just disorganized. Syra, this is you, and everything was always blamed on me as a person. And that leads to a lot of self-loathing and a lot of shame and constantly doubting and questioning who you are. And those are some of the questions that were in my head when I was going through this, trying to figure out why I struggled. I'm like, am I really just that lazy? Am I that disorganized? Am I that rude? When I interrupt somebody, am I just a rude person? Is that why I do that? And a lot of those are considered negative traits. And when you start looking at yourself like that, you even question the validity of your life. Like, do I even belong here? So with all these questions and all this emotional turmoil, this diagnosis helped relieve a lot of that. I started to realize that, yes, my struggles are a part of who I am, but not for the reason that I believed or I was led to believe. That it's part of the way my brain actually functions. There's a term, neurodivergent. It literally means that my brain, the way it functions, diverges from standard brain functioning. And that's neither good or bad, it's just different. So now, knowing that, oh goodness, I do apologize. My mascara is quite obviously not waterproof and it's getting in my eyes. So now with this part of the puzzle that I'm building into looking into who I am and how I can be better, it's helping me to figure out tools that are available or tools that I can figure out myself, ones that work specifically for me and how I function, to maybe actually become a success at something that I love. And this is just one part of my mental health journey. I have several other diagnoses that I will deal with in other videos. I only want to cry so much in one video, but I want to share with you some common traits. This is common traits for ADHD in general. These are not specific to females, but some of the common traits are carelessness or lack of attention to detail, always starting new tasks before finishing old ones, poor organizational skills, inability to focus or prioritize, continually losing or misplacing things, forgetfulness, restlessness or being edgy, difficulty keeping quiet or speaking out of turn, impulsive actions, little or no sense of danger, overspending, and easily distracted. Now, a lot of these are definitely hit home. But ones like, and there's more that are, or now these are the traits that are common in women or girls. Listening and remembering becomes more difficult, or it's more difficult for you. You are very disorganized or can be disorganized. Daydreaming, looking out the window. I always used to call it going off into la la land. feeling anxious or sad, exhibiting silliness or apparent dizziness or ditziness, acting shy or inattentive, trouble making friendships. For me, it wasn't making friendships, it was maintaining friendships. Picking at cuticles or skin, and that was like, why'd you call me out like that? I'll go into that in a minute. Being a perfectionist. Now, women tend to have what's called inattentive, like the inattentive side of ADHD, where men tend to have more the hyperactive side of ADHD. I'm looking at my notes, so I didn't really write what I was just going to say, just some of the content that I wanted to share. So for me, some of the things that I remember as a kid, I was always what they called chatty Cathy in class. I was always talking to everybody, talking to my teacher, talking to my fellow students, and being told, shh, quiet down. This is not time to talk. And I would be quiet for like 5 minutes, and then I'd be talking again. Daydreaming, like I just said, off in La La Land. La La Land was where I was all the time, if I could be there. Exhibiting silliness or apparent ditziness through childhood into adulthood. I was always hanging out with the kids because I felt more natural there, because I was goofy and funny, and I was always the jungle gym. Like, kids were always climbing on me and doing flips off my shoulders, even though I'm short. Maybe that's why they did it, because I didn't have to fall so far to fall. Inattentive, I was definitely inattentive. The slightest thing could change my focus to something else. And like I said, this one says trouble making friends. I am naturally funny, naturally gregarious, and a friendly person. So I didn't have trouble making friends, but I do have a lot of trouble maintaining them. Like right now, I don't really consider myself to have a lot of friends. In the past, I did, but through me wandering the world, which is part of the impulsiveness of ADHD, I've lost track of a lot of people. And I can remember in elementary school, my best friend when I was in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. I don't know where she is. She was my best friend when I was in Iowa. And then in 4th grade, I have another friend. Don't know where she is. Now, I do have one friend from 3rd grade that I have reconnected with a couple of times. And I'm friends with him on Facebook. But the other ones I would love to find. So, and part of this is, as a child, I grew up as a Marine Corps brat, so we moved on a regular basis. Regular, semi-regular basis. So my childhood was, from birth, my childhood was spent in South Korea, Barstow, California, both Davenport and Long Grove, Iowa, several different places in Minnesota. Like, I went to a school called Prosperity Elementary. I went to a school called North End. I was in Apple Valley, Minnesota. I was in Hinckley, Minnesota. I was in Pine City, Minnesota. So I've lived a lot of different places as a child, and I never even thought of, oh, I should get my friends' mailing address, because at that time that was what it was. It wasn't an email address. And I should keep track of my friends. That was not a thought in my head. I don't know why, but it just wasn't. So maintaining friendships is definitely hard for me. Feeling anxious or sad. I can remember the first time that I had an anxiety attack or a panic attack. It was when I was living in Iowa, and I was supposed to go babysit with a friend of mine, and we were supposed to go at a certain time, and she hadn't called me. Like, we were supposed to be there like in 30 minutes, and she still hadn't called me to go, and I was freaking out. And my dad, we were in the car, and he literally had to put his hand on my shoulder to calm me down, because I was just like, what if we're late? What if we're late? I blah, blah, blah. Just, I was going crazy. And then, feeling sad. I can remember moments of just feeling so, like, despair. I was with my friend in Iowa, my best friend at the time. And her family had just gotten a jukebox. And we were in the basement of her space, or her house, listening to music on the jukebox, and I was listening to some really sad songs. There's a song from the 40s, I think it's from the 50s, by Dickie Lee, called Patches, and oh my god, it was like a massive crash to me, being like in this big, dark abyss. It was horrible. And my friend finally said, why don't you just go home? Because you're not any fun right now. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, okay, I'll go home. Being disorganized. Now, this is a weird one for me, because I am very disorganized, but if I'm working for somebody, I can keep them organized. And on schedule and on track, but I can't do the same thing for myself. Listening, I commonly have to ask people to repeat themselves. So these are just some of the things that I know in myself. From the women's traits, now from the common traits that are like across both male and females, speaking out of turn. That is very common, and it's usually because, alright, if I don't say this right now, I'll forget it, and it's really important that I say this right now. That's usually like the thought in my head. Impulsive actions, I am horrible when it comes to money. Even if I know that I have to pay rent, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, I will easily go out and spend $100 on buying clothes. Overspending, that's a perfect example of that. Easily distracted, that definitely happens. I can be in the middle of talking and saying a sentence, and something else will catch my attention, and I'll be like, what was I just saying? And I will completely forget it. And if the person that I'm with wasn't really listening to me, they won't be able to get me back on track. Little or no sense of danger. I call this being naive. I am definitely naive. I can go into a situation and think that I'm absolutely safe 120% and find out I am not so safe. Now, this is a lack of attention to detail. Sometimes, yes, but there is a part of ADHD that if that's switched on in your mind, you are meticulous. Carelessness, again, that goes with overspending. That happens a lot. Always starting new tasks. Yes. Yes. Ukulele. Guitar. How many channels do I have now on YouTube? I don't even know. I am TikTok. So I started TikTok, and I started Instagram, and I have stuff for painting. I have stuff for collaging. I have stuff for journaling. I have stuff for drawing. I have a little bit of stuff for making music. It's crazy. I can be in the middle of reading one book, and I'll have to start another one. So that is huge for me. Inability to focus or prioritize. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's just like I try to focus on a subject, and no, that one doesn't work, that one doesn't work, that one doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Prioritizing, I think maybe as an adult, I'm better at it. from... Oh, hang on one second. I have to put my dog down on the floor. Come here, baby. Oh, oh, oh. Alright. Continually losing or misplacing things. Yes. I keep on thinking that there is some mischievous fairy that likes moving my things around. Forgetfulness. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And there's a part of that, like one of the reasons why people with ADHD have such a messy or disorganized area is because if we can't see something, we can forget that we have it. And I know, like, I will buy a Women's World because I want to read an article, and I'll have it and I'll put it someplace, and I won't be able to see it. So next time I go to the store, I'm like, oh, I want to read that article. I need to buy that, even though I already bought it. So I definitely have some weeks when I've purchased like 3 Women's Worlds, the exact same one, because I want to read an article. And then I go through and I find the other ones, and I'm like, oh, dang, I did it again. So those are just some of my traits. Now, I want to share some of the positive stuff, but I want to go into one more area first. Comorbidity, which is basically having one mental illness disorder or one disorder and having others at the same time. These are common: depression, anxiety, OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, ODD or oppositional defiant disorder. And that one I understand. It's like the more somebody wants you to do something, the more defiant you get, the more you don't want to do it. So, like, a common situation: time to do the dishes. The more somebody says it's time to do the dishes, let's do the dishes, the more it's like, no, I'm not going to do the dishes. I don't want to do the dishes. That happens to me. Bipolar disorder, anger control problems, motor tics, oral tics, and Tourette's. Tourette's is something I'm going to have to look into, because I do know that as long as I can remember, there are times when I do something called echolalia, where I repeat words over and over again, and that does actually happen to me. Learning disabilities, language disabilities, and sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder is when you become easily overwhelmed by external sensory things. Flashing lights, too many bright colors, too much noise. And this is a weird one for me because I've worked as a wench at Renaissance festivals, and in regular street clothes, I can be in a crowd and just be like, feel like cringy, like I'm like nails on a chalkboard are like all over the place. But when I'm in my Renaissance garb and dressed as a wench, I'm fine. So it is one of those just weird things for me. Let me get my dog. Hang on a second. Come here, Henry boy. I don't want to. Come here. Come here. No games. Let's go. Come on. Okay. I have too many dogs. Come here. It's okay. It's okay. Come here. Come on. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh. If you haven't been introduced yet, this one's Henry. This one's Bearito or Bear Bear. Yeah, there's a story, a little bit of a story to his name. A little bit of story to this guy's name, too. But he's my little Henry. Oh, there we go. Alright, so some of the good parts about being ADHD, and, okay. disorganized and not ready for stuff is definitely one of them, and this is like the perfect example right here. So some of the positive parts of ADHD, and why I'm not angry that I'm ADHD. I'm relieved that I have a piece of the puzzle. But some of the positive traits, out of the box thinking, a sense of humor, drive, and passion. When it's something that we're passionate about, it's on. It's on. Hyper focus. This is basically where something, a passion, we become so focused on it that we can do this thing for hours and not have any issues with getting tired or bored of it. Resilience. ADHDers get knocked down a lot, especially when you're young and you don't know what is going on. And we continually pick ourselves back up and we live to fight another day. Sparkling personality, pleasure to be around. Maybe, I guess I would have to ask other people about that one. I know I've been told that I'm fun to be around, or I can be the life of the party sometimes, and I think that that may be a yes to that one. Generosity, yes. I can tell you throughout my 20s, if my friends needed something and I had it, they had it. I no longer had it. And that was, I had people living with me. Anybody who needed a ride, I was always picking them up and taking them places. Ingenuity, that goes along with the outside of the box thinking. When there's something that we are up against, we will definitely find a new or different way of handling that situation. A strong sense of fairness, and yes, I definitely have that. I see people as equal, but equal in different ways. I know that everybody should have the same opportunities as other people, but some people need a little extra help to take advantage of those opportunities, while some people can just fly through those opportunities like they were born to do it. So that is where my sense of fairness comes from. I think everybody should have the same opportunities, but sometimes other people need a little extra boost. Willingness to take risks. Yes, that can be both good and bad. Spontaneity, most definitely. That is most definitely, and it's something that I am thankful to have as part of who I am. I have lived a lot of different places because all of a sudden I'm like, I'm bored of where I am, and I will pack up all my stuff and I will go someplace different. And I love that part of me because I've met a lot of different people and I have experienced a lot of different things and I've seen a lot of different places. And that is definitely a good part of ADHD. A great sense of humor. I think I have a good sense of humor. I can definitely, or I like a lot of different types of humor, like dry humor, physical humor, goofy humor. Like all of it can just set me laughing so much that my stomach hurts. Constant surprises. That is definitely one of them. When I was a kid, I was always bringing home surprises for my parents. That the stray cat, the stray dog, the stray child. Last of the romantics. I don't know. I think I can be very romantic, but I haven't had a romantic partner of any kind for quite a few years, but a lot of that is me dealing with mental health issues, I think. Engaging conversational skills. I love to talk. I really do. And I don't like to talk about boring subjects, small talk is just tedious. Let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about politics. Let's talk about religion. Some of the taboo subjects. Let's talk about art. Let's talk about travel. Let's talk about languages. Let's talk about ideas. Let's talk about philosophy. Some of that stuff is so amazing. Compassionate. Yes, I spend a lot of time thinking about the other person. I'm going to have to pause for a moment. Persistence. Yes, when it's something that I really care about, I will be persistent and keep on going until I achieve what I am looking for. Superstar creativity. Yes, I can definitely say that I am creative in a lot of different ways. I like to draw. I like to paint. I like collages. I like to play instruments. I write poetry. I'm working on writing music. I like to do things with my hands. I like to build. And I like the thought process in those different things. Unique perspective. Yeah, I think sometimes my perspective scares people because it's so out of the box. And contagious motivation. That is something that I looked at it, I'm like, maybe not now, but in the past, if I'm really motivated to do something, I'll be like, all right, let's go, let's do this. We can rock this out, blah, 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 blah. And that, yep, that totally rings true for me. So that is a little bit about me being diagnosed with ADHD and the struggle that I had before and how puzzle pieces are starting to fall in line for me. And knowing that a lot of my struggle came from a disorder and not like an inherent part of my personality. There is a huge sense of relief in that, and now things don't look so bad anymore. Things look like possibilities, and I'm gonna have to say goodbye for now. There will be future videos with other diagnoses that there were 4 diagnoses last year, and I'm waiting on 1 more for this year, and there might be a couple more after that I have to investigate. So, with that, I will bid you all adieu, and thank you if you managed to make it for the full 33 minutes. And I'm going to stop in this this minute because 0033 is the birthday of somebody that I really, really love and care for. And I think it's a good omen. Thank you, everybody.